Okay. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. I work at the Hope Clinic, which is the clinical arm of the Emory Vaccine Center, and we had a year to remember with many vaccines that were tested here and across the country. So I felt like I would like to spend 10 minutes with you to talk a little bit about this vaccine journey, which had been quite an exciting one. So exactly a year ago, there have been a cluster of pneumonia cases in China. And on January 10th, 2020, the sequence of the virus was made available online. And within few days, scientists in collaboration with the NIH were able to make a vaccine. It's called the mRNA vaccine. So it's basically a messenger of nucleic acid that will enter our cells, but not the nucleus, and will ask our cells to make a protein. In that case, it's the protein of SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus causing COVID-19. What it does, it makes one of the protein and not all of them. So there is no chance that actually the mRNA will give us COVID. And then that particular protein is called the spike protein. It's like a hook that will allow the virus to enter our body. So that mRNA, we have probably like around 5,000 every day that circulate in our body to make sure we produce the right protein or the right elements that our body need to function. And then the vaccine continued to progress, and in less than 2 months, which is a remarkable achievement, the vaccine was given to humans for the first time. So that was in middle of March of 2020, and that was in Seattle, and they were seeing a bad outbreak of COVID then. We start seeing COVID local transmission in Atlanta at the beginning of March, and we still, unfortunately, seeing many cases here in Atlanta and Georgia and across the country. And then Emory was invited to be part of that phase 1 Moderna mRNA vaccine trial. We had vaccinated the first subjects here in Atlanta at the Hope Clinic, as well as the Emory Children's Center by the end of March. And we were the first site to actually give the vaccine to older individuals, 56 years and above. And then that had paved the way for the next phase of testing, which is called phase 2. Basically, hundreds of participants receive the vaccine, and we collect information about their safety. We collect also blood to understand the immune response to the vaccine. And by July 27, not only the Moderna mRNA vaccine moved forward, but also another vaccine, which is quite similar, the Pfizer mRNA. Both of them started their phase 3 trial. Both of them completed enrollment. For Moderna, it was 30,000 subjects. For Pfizer, it was 43,000 subjects. And we had those amazing results that we heard about almost every Monday in the months of November, showing that the vaccine protects against symptomatic COVID, so people that have COVID in their nose, as well as having symptoms consistent with the illness, in 95% of the case. And then what's really amazing about the vaccine, it also almost prevents the entire cases of severe cases of COVID, which is that important. So it avoided people receiving oxygen, avoided people getting admitted to the hospital. So that's one platform to make the vaccine, and that's the one that had received the FDA emergency use authorization last week, and there is another one pending for the Moderna vaccine later this week. So it's very exciting that this is the week where anybody outside the trial, though there is a prioritization order, will receive the vaccine. There are other ways also to make vaccines for coronavirus or other infectious disease. One of them is a live vector. So instead of sending the mRNA, we're going to put the nucleic acid, the genetic material of that spike protein on the viral vector, introduce it to the body. And then so far, there is the AstraZeneca product, which is an adenovirus vector, the chimpanzee adenovirus vector, that had been given in many countries, including the US and the UK, of course, and had shown efficacy, though a little bit lower than the mRNA product. There is another trial that's finishing enrollment by the end of the year in the US, and then in other countries, it's called the Janssen product, and it's also a adenovirus vector. There are more platforms that needs to be explored. So one of them is the most common one, which is basically taking the virus and then killing it or making it less virulent. Those strategies are not being pursued in the US, but definitely in other countries like China. And we also have another platform that you're probably more familiar with, is the protein vaccine. The company makes the protein is introduced to the body hopefully will make the antibody response and other immune response to it. This is the classic example of the influenza vaccine. And that platform is a little bit delayed. We would love for anybody to volunteer for our studies, either related to vaccines or other. That's really, without the help of the community, we cannot really move those testing forward, and then therefore making those products available to everybody in the US and abroad. So this is really an exciting time for vaccine, where instead of taking 10 to 15 years, we were able to come up with a vaccine that's safe, that's effective against a pandemic in 11 months, which is an astonishing speed for development. So thank you for your time. And then, yes, I will definitely put the website for the clinic and share also the phone number with you. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Rueff. And just for brevity's sake, and we'll get the people on the backside to get the telephone numbers, can you give us a very simple number to call and where these vaccine trials are that you want us to volunteer for now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking, again, people think like, well, we have 2 effective vaccines. They have not received full licensure. So we're still trying to understand better how they work and how safe they are. But we have 7 billion people that need that vaccine. All those vaccines are currently given at 2 doses, the majority of them. So that's 14 billion people. There is not one company that can make that in a timely fashion. So we still need to understand better the candidates. I am happy to share the phone number within the box and also the website, as well as an email for people to participate. It had been absolutely amazing. I think the first day when we started the Mrna trial here on August 11, I went to the different room and saw people that were there volunteering after they volunteered for the pandemic H1N1. They said, we really want to help. We saw how much the only way to get over the pandemic is to go with the data-driven science. And then we're really proud of the community engagement that we had with the study, with the diversity that we had, and then really the support of communities and communities like you. So yes, I'm more than happy, Monica, to share those contacts.
One last little question.
Yes.
Okay. Did you see it, Dr. Parker?
Yeah, the question that I wanted to have asked is simply that people are afraid of side effects. Have you observed here in the Atlanta market and in your Atlanta population any significant adverse event or side effect or something that may be problematic, and just kind of explain it to people?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. This is a great question. Yes, this is new. People are afraid. It went at a warp speed. I can assure you that at least the safety part was not shortcut. We took our time. We enrolled the right number of the participants. There were things that typically are done in sequence that were done in parallel. So along with the human studies, we've also done the animal studies in parallel. So to cut time, we also had the US government paying for the doses ahead of time. So this is how things got faster. However, the point that you make, the vaccines are safe. What are they doing is in the first 2 to 3 days, they can cause local reactions, similar to when we get the shingles vaccine or when we get the influenza vaccine. We feel a little bit of pain, a little bit of redness, a little bit of swelling. And then we also sometimes feel tired. We might have a slight fever. We might feel like we have a headache. And we've seen those a little bit more severe after the second dose. So we've seen more like general complaints after the second vaccine. But they're very they happen at a certain time. So typically 12 to 15 hours after you get the second shot. They also only last 1 to 3 days. And they completely disappear, and people don't feel at all that they have any cold-like symptoms, right? So it's not, we have ways to tell if this is COVID versus a tolerability of the vaccine after the shot. So those side effects are expected. Those side effects are generally present. in vaccines. So I can say perhaps what people have told us is those mRNA vaccine probably are a little bit felt more than the flu shot, but a little bit less than the shingles vaccine. So somewhere in between had been the tolerability profile. But as far as the safety, have we seen any other safety signals? So far, not.
And one final question. People are concerned, I think, about just the rollout and the scheduling and how people are being triaged in line for the vaccine. Like you said, there's not a billion doses available. How are they going to prioritize and roll out who gets what?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's an absolutely wonderful question. This is the week where we're going to get the vaccine in Georgia. We don't have enough doses. We're going to make tough choices. We are looking for CDC for guidance, and CDC had issued that there are 3 priority groups. The first one will be healthcare worker, people working in nursing home residents, because we need to maintain the workforce to care for people who had COVID. We also need to protect the most vulnerable population, which unfortunately most of the deaths that were seen in the US were in older, frail individuals. Next is the group that are essential workers, just to get the country moving. And then the last priority group is people older that are 65 and above, and also with comorbidities. So I think there will be a time where we will not have enough doses for everybody. So patience is needed, wearing masks is also needed, washing hands and maintaining distance is essential until we get a sufficient large number of people to get vaccinated. Yes, so I'm getting a question about the teacher. That's absolutely right. I have 3 kids that didn't do well at all with virtual learning. So I immensely, and both my parents are teachers, so I completely understand the priority for teachers. I think the decision had been made by probably a lot of schools to go virtual. So I think why it's not like they're not a priority, maybe we could get the teacher vaccinated later, which will be just in a few months, we hope, and definitely before the reopening of the school, which we hope will be in fall 2021.
So the general population and people who aren't first line are likely not to get immunizations now, maybe the March, spring, something like that, as they become available. Because Mr. Ginsburg, who's always asking these questions, what's the timetable? What's the timetable? It's less of a timetable and more of a supply issue, is it not?
Correct. It's all about a supply issue. That's why it's essential to have more candidates that's available, more options to be available, more doses to be available. Right now, what we know is the mRNA platform can probably produce anywhere between 500 million to 1 billion doses. But again, that's only sufficient for 250 to 500 million. And it's a global need, right? So some of the doses are going to countries in Europe and the rest of the world. Why I think most of the US population will be vaccinated in the first half of 2021. I don't think anybody can get vaccinated right away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I will add the details to the chat box. Thank you and happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays. Thank you. Okay, well, we did things a little bit different this week, right? We started with a presentation by Dr. Nadine Rouphael, who is the director of the Emory Vaccine Center. So she gave us some really important and critical updates about what's coming online as it relates to the vaccine. So there will be a recording that we will send out. So you can take time to go through all of the presentations today and all of the content and take notes and share this information. So today, if you're new, this is Emory BrainTalk Live, sponsored by the Emory Goizetta Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. We've been hosting these programs every Tuesday since March 31st. And we try to pack a lot of information in 1 hour. We're a research center. Our ultimate goal is to find a cure and interventions and therapies to mitigate or cure memory impairment. So today you're going to hear from Dr. Ken Hepburn. He's going to talk about how do you prepare your person living with dementia for the holidays. Then you're going to hear from Dr. Monica Parker. She's going to talk about understanding signs and symptoms as it relates to dementia. And after Dr. Parker, you're going to hear from Glenna Brewster, Dr. Glenna Brewster. She's going to be talking about a important research study that she has, and she's actually going to, we have the privilege of having one of her research participants with us today. So you're going to hear straight from someone who is currently participating in a trial. Then we're going to close out with a little bit of music. We've been doing live music all of December because we want to keep your hope up. We want to keep your joy up. But what do we say every week? What is good for your heart is good for your brain. And exercise is absolutely good for your brain. So John is going to come on and get our hearts moving and going. And then we're going to go back into our presentation. So take heed, get ready, and John, take us away.
First of all, I always want to say welcome to the Emory Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. And it is just special. Today, if you have any water bottles, go get it right now. But if not, you can only use your upper body. Today, I'm going to show you techniques you can use with a simple broom or cane or stick. All right? And remember, you must have a sturdy chair. Make sure it's sturdy. All right? In 5 seconds, we're going to get started. So go get your broom or your water bottles. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we're starting with the broom. All right. I want arms level, feet wide, and twist. We're going to get that core, those lats. We're working the muscles down the vertebrae. Good. Arms straight. I'm going to pull with my down hand. Switch, pull. Switch, pull. Switch, pull. Great job. Let's put it behind us. Back straight. My hands are flat, and let's twist. There you go. Make sure your back is straight. Don't slump over. Nice and smooth. We're getting that waistline. We're getting a nice stretch. And that blood is flowing. Great job. Elbows in. And I want you to press. There we go. And let's go angle. Boom. Angle the stick so you can keep good lines. We body sculpting. We working that chest, those shoulders, and those legs. I want your elbows on your knees and curl quick. We want to turn that body on. Come on, pump it. Quick, pump it, pump it, pump it, pump it, and great. Flip your hands over, elbows up, and triceps. This helps you with good form. There we go. Press all the way up. Great job. All right, this next one. Extend it out. My arms are straight. And circle. We're working that rotator cuff, those shoulders, those lats, and that core, because it's moving. Other way. Great job. All right. Our next one. Grab your water bottle. I'm gonna use a big one. If you want to use a small one, it's okay. Here we go. Press, 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 press. Angle up. Come on. And you can use your own upper body now. Watch it. Boom. Boom. Come on. There we go. We're really getting that upper back, those biceps, and those lats. Watch it. One arm. Pull. 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 Switch. and rock the cradle. Come on. Now you really engage in that waistline. We really engage in that lower back. Because we got to work that lower back so it can stay strong. Great job. Overhead, press, press, press. Make sure that back's straight. Head up. Don't slope over. Head up. There we go. Great job. Arms straight and rock the cradle. Remember, I love getting that waistline. Great job. Now we're about to crank that cardio up. Y'all better be ready. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get that cardio up. Tap, tap. We get those hamstrings right now. We get those quads. Now I'm about to get those hips. Watch these hips. Come on. Come on. Come on. Jump, 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 shake it. Hey, 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 hey. Let's get that blood going. Watch it. Bring them hands up. Just move them hips. Oh. You can do your thing with your hands and rest. I want you on them toes, knees in, hands up. Come on. Woo. There you go. There you go. I like that right there. I like you right there. Let's go. Look at that waistline move. Watch them hips and rest. Watch this now. Now we getting those outer obliques. We get those upper quads, we get them hips, and we get them glutes. Now let me add a little upper body with it. Let's go. Great job. I have to play that one over again. I was feeling I was gonna go to another song, but I have to play that one again. Let's go. I have to play out this. Let's march. Let's march. We going on the walk right now. Come on. Walk with me. Come on. Can we just get one leg? Go, go. I'm taking y'all to the islands right now. Whoa. Please, don't fall on your chair. Don't fall out. Come on. Oh, don't you fall on your chair. Just lean a little bit. Bring it back up. Switch. Hey. Oh, 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 oh. Bring it back. Let's go to low walk. Watch this, watch this, watch this. I told you I was gonna wake that body up today. We're gonna wake it up every Tuesday. We have like a day party. Great job. Woo! I love it, I love it, I love it. With all the stresses of today, I want to say, y'all keep it up. Do your part right now. Hey, it's been a pleasure. I'm John Lewis, and see you later. Bye.
Bravo, bravo. You, John, like I said, he was going to do what's good for your heart is good for your brain, right? And so you are pumped up and go, right? Okay, so next week, that's the week of Christmas. So we have a lot of fun activities planned for you. And so be prepared. I think I'm going to make an announcement about a ugly sweater contest for next Tuesday and a few Christmas games that we'll play. And we're going to hear from Dr. Whitney Warden. So we'll still do a little bit of education, but we're going to have some fun. Okay? All right, so next up, you are going to hear from Dr. Ken Hepburn. Hello, Ken, and I believe I've already made you a host and you're ready to go.
Good. Thanks, and hello, everybody. Cornelia has arranged for a very packed hour and so, and I'm going to be relatively brief, but I want to suggest that I know how much you all have enjoyed having trivia games. And so this is going to be a little bit of a trivia game. I want to move something here. I want to talk about seasonal celebrations with a person who's living with a dementia illness. And, you know, starting the 10th of December, when Hanukkah began, and until I think it's January 6th, when Eastern Christians celebrate Christmas, we have got Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, all kinds of things. So 20 some days of potential for celebration. And I just want to say, going into the notion of celebration and thinking about persons living with dementia, I think I have some basic principles. And one is, and this is actually not only for the person living with dementia, but for all of us, where the person is always there. A dementia doesn't take away a personhood. COVID isolation doesn't take away our COVIDhood, or our personhood. We're here. And so one basic principle of the celebration is to be here with the celebration, with the season. And by being here, being engaged with the season. And so I think, and it's probably not sacrilegious to do so, that the holiday season is really a feast for the senses. And so I want to just talk briefly today and engage you in a little exercise of how can we indulge the senses, ours and a person living with a dementia, indulge in the feast of the senses. And so think about sights, seasonal sights. We just, we got a little tree, we put it up, I put the lights on. So we have some lights on the tree. We're beginning to wrap gifts. We have candles, decorating the home. All of these are things in which you can, if you're caring, guiding a person who's living with a dementia, you select sort of the right fit of an activity, you can ask that person to be part of it. Walking outside is still really quite feasible here. And so walking through the neighborhood in the early evening and seeing the lights in other people's houses. Or if you go to a mall, which I do carefully, or simply walk up and down some streets and look at store windows, these are all opportunities to engage you and your person in the sense of sight in the seasonal time. Smell, I think especially it's a wonderful time for smells because so many things get cooked. You know, we have scented candles on the tree. Our tree doesn't smell very well, but very much, but the tree smells. But baking and cooking and all of the things that go into the special meals and the special treats we prepare. So this is the trivia game. I want you to go to your chat box and begin to chat in. What are some of the other smells that you can engage your person with, or engage that you look forward to during this season? And it's an odd, some of us maybe don't think in terms of sense of smell, but this is a seasonal feast of the senses. So begin chatting. What are some other things that you think about in the area of smell? And then taste. Again, I think food, traditional foods of the season. Somehow in my wife's family, a recipe for cranberry sherbet has passed through the generations. And so that's one of the things that I look forward to. There's all kinds of baked goods that we only do at this time. And once a year, I get to have a fruitcake shipped in specially from Texas, and I just really look forward to it. There are seasonal candies and seasonal drinks. And again, go to the chat box. And what else do you look forward to? Special treats, special taste treats for your particular holidays. Because these are things, the more we think about these things, if we're caring for someone, guiding someone with a dementia, we can engage that person in sight and smell and taste and sounds. There's certainly going to be lots and lots of holiday music on the radio. I'm sure that YouTube and the internet is just full of things that you can go to and specials you can play. I think it's interesting a lot. I think of religious celebrations are going to be on the internet or on television. And so engaging a person in a traditional religious celebration online, which almost always will involve singing and music, is another way you can engage people with sound. And so what else can we engage people with? I'm looking at I can't find it in my chat box, so I'm not sure. I'm hoping that people are playing here. And touch. There are lots of gifts to be held, to be wrapped. There are decorations to be put on the tree. There is food that needs preparation. All of this is very tactile. And so you can engage yourself and your person through this particular sense of touch. And again, what else do you have in the chat box that's you would use to engage your person? And I think that I have run through all of the senses that I'm aware of. So, oh, look at that. Look at
Yeah, they were coming in, Ken.
that's fabulous. Oh, I feel like John Lewis. This is so good. That's warm, fuzzy socks. Yeah, movies, backgammon games. You know, apple cider, I forgot that entirely. Hot chocolate. You guys are great. Okay, well, I'm going to stop because Monica has important things to say, but keep chatting. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ken. That really did sort of prepare us for what we can anticipate in the next 10 days and what some people are already planning based on their religion and how they celebrate this time of year. So thank you for the great tips. And Dr. Parker. Okay, there you are. Okay, you want to introduce your topic? I'm going to pull up your slides.
Yes, my topic today is how do you deal with behaviors that really are kind of offensive or problematic in persons who have problems with their memory. So we have entitled this section, Understanding Behaviors in Dementia. And while Ken did a great job talking about all the things that we look forward to for Christmas, it's really important to remember that when you're dealing with an older person who has memory impairment, crowds are probably not the best thing for them. So enjoying those sights, those smells, the music, one-on-one or in a small group that he or she is familiar with and routinely interacts with is probably better than having a large confabulation. I'm going to say that, okay? Dr. Hepburn, I'm just going to ask for your guidance here. I like all the things that you're talking about. Would you interject something here about crowds? Aside from pandemic, please.
Yeah, absolutely right, Monica. Thank you. I think keeping a person who's living with a dementia in as unconfusing an environment as possible is just really a wise general thing to do. So, you know, taking somebody up to one of the big malls wouldn't be a great idea. Walking along a street, a quiet street in the evening and looking at houses, just you and the person, that's more manageable. So keeping confusion at a minimum is really important. Thanks so much, Monica.
Thank you, Ken. So on that note, I'll proceed with my stuff. It's what we're going to talk about is defining dementia again. What are some of the risks associated with some of the medicines we use to treat Alzheimer's and related dementias? And this last piece, and this is why I brought this up, all the stuff that Ken was talking about is something that will engender something pleasant, something familiar in your person who has memory impairment. But as Ken pointed out, and this is why I wanted him to say it, those kinds of things are what you can do to keep somebody calm and to keep somebody comfortable. Too much stimulation where people are unfamiliar will generally elicit a change in their behavior, and it's not always a kind of change that you welcome. So that last little bullet there, what are the non-pharmacologic interventions for dementia? That what Ken just discussed is some of what we can do to help our person who has a little memory loss and cognitive impairment to feel more comfortable. Next. What is dementia? For everybody who's new, I like to define dementia as brain dysfunction. It's just not working well. Why isn't my brain working well? Well, I don't know, because there's so many different things that can cause dementia. I just think the better way for you to think of dementia is the brain just isn't working and processing in the way it normally should. Next. Okay, so behavior as communication. So how do you deal with somebody who can't really tell you that they're hurting, that they're hungry, or that they have to urinate or other things? Sometimes people with memory impairment or cognitive impairment who have lost the ability to communicate verbally generally let you know what's needed by their behavior. And their behavior and their indifference sometimes lets you know that there is a problem, okay? Bad behavior shouldn't be interpreted as, I don't like you, I don't want to do something. It's just their way to respond. Think about how a 2-year-old speaks. He or she can't tell you in words what they want. If they're too tired, they scream and they holler and they may throw a tantrum. So somebody with dementia who's experiencing pain may withdraw from activity, maybe get defensive if you hurt or touch something that may be painful. Next, please. Next. Cornelia or Crystal, whichever one of you is rolling through. Okay. How common are behavioral problems in dementia? Most families don't have any problem with, well, they do. People with dementia can be tolerated to a point, but it's the bad behaviors that make for a lot of distress in families. Things like, she's not cooperating, she's hitting at me, she's cursing at me, she's calling me names, she's taking off her clothes and wandering down the street, or he's hoarding things, he's hiding things. My father is attacking the women in the nursing home, and my mother's there and she's very offended. You know, they're not sleeping when everybody else is sleeping. They're awake and they're wandering. It's like, can't you give them a pill? Oh my God, I'm so distressed. Okay. So these kinds of behaviors generally have triggers. And so a lot of times we need to try to figure out what's a real behavior or what they may be acting out about and try to figure out what that is. There are some people who will say, I see a child on the wall and I see people looking through my window. Sometimes when they say something, try to do a cursory investigation. Is something that they're seeing in their environment different? We've had caregivers that change and people don't recognize them, so they think they're strange people. And again, if there's a sudden change in somebody's behavior, try to do a little investigation. I had a patient whose daughter was actually a psychiatrist, who couldn't figure out why her mother refused to walk. Not only did she refuse to walk, but every time her daughter attempted to move her, she'd hit at her. Well, when she got to Wesley Woods and we started evaluating things and looked at her a little bit more closely, we discovered that she had broken a bone in her ankle. She had fallen, tripped or something, but couldn't tell us that her ankle hurt, couldn't tell us that there was any pain. Now, there wasn't any swelling, nothing obviously wrong, but it was clear that when you got her to stand up, there was a problem. And so we got an x-ray for her. And so her reaction to her pain was to hit and to not move. She wouldn't walk, she wouldn't stand up, she wouldn't bear weight. It was painful, but she couldn't, it was painful. Another thing that triggers changes in is delirium, which we've discussed before, which a lot of times has a medical etiology. Next, please, or cause. So again, we have to look at some of these things. So first things doctors do a lot of times when there's a change in somebody's behavior, they have some dementia, they have some brain dysfunction, but their behaviors are just have gotten to the point where they're objectionable, and this is a new development. We need to try to initially figure out what might be triggering that. Maybe it's pain, maybe it's being cold, maybe it's being hungry, maybe it's a urinary tract infection and it's painful and they're in pain. So when we start looking, at why somebody may be behaving badly, one of the things you have to check for is what might be causing it. Do we need to medicate it? Okay, if I've got a broken bone, I need to address that. But just because I'm agitated and I'm angry, don't say, give me something to sleep. Well, according to Beer's criteria, a lot of the medicines that calm normal people, I mean, people who aren't older, down are things like Ativan, lorazepam. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we might use. Those kinds of medicines in older adults with dementia generally have a negative side effect. They're not the things that we would want to give them. Some people who are given these anti-anxiety medicines, instead of calming down, are generally hyped up. So we have antipsychotics, which are Risperdal, Dyadic, and things like that. And those are generally reserved for people with a mental health diagnosis. Benzodiazepines are the medicines that I've just talked about, the Ativan. Mood stabilizers may be used, not as commonly as they had been before, but lithium may be used in some people with certain, say, psychiatric features. Antidepressants, as I've talked about before, may be used to do things, not so much because the person is depressed, but their side effects, like trazodone, for example, or Deseril, is something that may be given to people to take at night to help them go to sleep. It's less harmful for them than using a benzodiazepine. A citalopram may help, or Lexapro, that's a generic name. Any antidepressant like Zoloft, citalopram, Lexapro, those may be used to just keep people from being agitated, but they don't have the side effect profile that's negative. Trazodone, Remeron, mirtazapine may be used because they help people sleep, but they also help improve appetites. Cholinesterase inhibitors, that's the donepezil, Aricept, the Exelon patches, are medications that we use in treating people with Alzheimer's, but they don't necessarily intervene or stop the disease process. Next, please. So what are some of the reasons why you might want to put people on some of the medications we just talked about for Alzheimer's? I'm going to go to the right side of the screen, the benefits. It's easier, it's quick, short term, I can get some sleep, maybe this will help. Maybe this sedates them, keeps them from being agitated. And in nursing facilities or long-term care facilities, people are more likely to be medicated. Now, when you start talking about cannabis, marijuana, things like that, I've off-label, I've heard about those sorts of things. Those aren't necessarily legitimate or things that we can access here in Georgia. You can probably access them in Denver, any place where marijuana is legal, but not necessarily here in Georgia. So people in facilities are more likely to get medications versus those people who are cared for at home. Families generally adjust their schedules, their activities to try to accommodate, kind of in the way that Dr. Hepburn talked about a little bit earlier. One of the reasons we don't like to give people antipsychotics or really bad sedatives is it exacerbates or makes worse their confusion or their cognitive dysfunction. They may be more sedated, such that they don't eat, they don't drink, they don't move, such that their muscles atrophy. They're more likely to develop bed sores because they're not moving and not as active. They may get disequilibrium and may be more subject to fall. So we want to be really, really careful with those medications. Again, over sedating somebody, giving somebody medications to help them sleep may over sedate them and make other things more likely. So there are risks associated with these medicines. Short term, maybe they're helpful, but long term, not necessarily so. Go. Next, please. So what are the non-pharmacologic techniques? Ken gave us a great segue into this. Walking and spending time one-on-one with things that are familiar to the person that you're with. The music, I like to see in the chat, people said Handel's Messiah. Well, Christmas music that they're familiar with, if they were really interested in classical music and they loved Handel's Messiah, they would probably love hearing it. That would be something that they would enjoy. The smells, the foods, all the things that you talked about are something that people who have memory dysfunction can probably recall some of the things that you talked about. And those are sorts of things that may be helpful. Individualized behavioral interventions. Those are the things that we talk about that are necessary. Other things that you can use other than medications to keep people calm. And as we said before, giving people too much stimulation, whether too much noise, too many people, or too much overstimulation, whatever that stimulation is, may be too much for people. So it's really important to keep the person with cognitive impairment, brain dysfunction in a familiar, comfortable environment. Make sure that the temperature is right, not too hot, not too cold. Give them foods and things that are familiar to them. Give them an established routine so that they feel comfortable. And again, these are the things that we call non-pharmacologic techniques. I think as you enter a caregiving class or learn more about care, you're going to learn more and more about those things. The routines and the kinds of personal interactions these people have with the people in their environment are more important for safeguarding against bad behaviors in people with cognitive dysfunction or function. Next, please. I think that's just about it. So what are some of the environmental modifications? I think that as we've gone through this, the most important thing is kind of respond to what the person needs. If it's too loud, lower the music. If it's too bright, enter some shades. You know, if it's too dark, turn on some light. Keep things bright so people can see you, can see where they are and what environment they're in. Keep going. You know, at home, we don't necessarily have occupational therapists and other people in our environment, but all of these things on the left side, other non-pharmacological approaches are things that you can do. Keep rooms bright so people can see and continue to walk. If people have cats, dogs, rabbits, anything that they enjoy, let them with the home family pets and animals. Exercise, daily walking, some kind of daily physical activity to keep them from being bored and to get rid of that extra energy that keeps them rocking back and forth and making them want to get up and leave and wander or walk out the front door. Music therapy, as we've talked about before, something there have been a lot of talks about aromatherapy. You know, we talked about cinnamon bars, cinnamon, apple cider, those are smells of the holiday, but similar things can be used to help people sleep. Lavender, for example. Pain, treating pain, you know, muscle relaxation, all of these things on the right-hand side. TENS is something for pain relief. Acupuncture, I've seen that done in rehab, but I haven't necessarily experienced very many people who have done it, but acupuncture can be helpful for people who are restless or are experiencing pain. And reminiscence is remembering things, going back, looking at photo journals, talking about things that might have happened in the past if your person is verbal. Next. That's it. So happy to answer any questions if you have any, and I'll go into the chat and answer questions and answers. Next.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Glenna?
Am I next, Cordelia?
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so I think Dr. Parker did a really great segue into what I'm going to be talking about now. So Dr. Parker talked a lot about sleep and behaviors that we might see in persons who are living with cognitive impairment. And what I want to talk about is my intervention that I have. It's called a dyadic approach for managing sleep disturbance in cognitive impairment, using cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So this is really a behavioral intervention. And when I say dyadic, I mean both the caregiver, the care partner, and the person who's living with cognitive impairment will be participating in the intervention. Next slide. So there are sometimes, a lot of times when we see a person living with cognitive impairment, they might be experiencing, and a lot of them do experience sleep disturbance. And this is due to, day and night sleep pattern reversal. So as the disease progresses, or even at the beginning of the disease, they might think that night is day or day is night. And as a result, they might sleep more during the day and they're awake at night. Or they might have frequent nighttime awakenings. And if they have frequent nighttime awakenings, then we see increases in daytime sleepiness and napping. And when this happens with the person who lives with cognitive impairment, then many times we will see that the caregiver, they're talking about having also multiple nightly awakenings, shorter sleep duration, because caregivers or care partners tend to go to bed later than the person who's living with cognitive impairment, and then they tend to wake up earlier. Or they might take a longer time to fall asleep. And this might be related to quite a few things, their responsibilities, trying to think about how they need to manage other life stresses that may be going on. So that might cause them to take a longer time to fall asleep. And inconsistent sleep-wake time. So one night they might go to bed at 8, the next night they might go to bed at midnight, and they wake up at different times also. And related to having multiple nightly awakenings is having longer wake after sleep onset. And wake after sleep onset is where after you've initially fallen asleep, you wake up and then you take a long time to fall back asleep, and longer sleep onset latency. So what I wanted to do was that I've realized in my research so far trajectory is that there's this interdependence. So when one person is unable to sleep, then the next person often might have some challenges in falling asleep themselves. So what I've developed is a dyadic intervention. So it's 4 weeks, 1 hour video conference visits, and we have both the person who lives with cognitive impairment and the caregiver participating simultaneously. And the main things that we go through are stimulus control, sleep hygiene, sleep compression, relaxation, and cognitive restructuring. So those are some things that we go through. And our aim really is to assess the feasibility of this intervention. So whether or not both people can do it together, whether or not it's acceptable, and then to look preliminarily to see whether or not it worked in improving or changing how both the caregiver and the person living with cognitive impairment, their sleep quality outcomes. So that is whether they were able to fall asleep quicker, whether they woke up less times during the night, or even if they woke up at times during the night, whether it took them a shorter time to fall asleep and whether it changed their sleep quality. Next slide. And to be included in the study, it's an informal caregiver. So we want informal caregivers. So whether it's a family or friend who is co-residing with the person who lives with cognitive impairment, and they're providing unpaid assistance to the person. And there is some sleep problems. So whether it's taking a long time to fall asleep, or when you wake up at night, you stay awake for a longer period of time. And that is happening a few times weekly. And if you wake up early in the morning too, you're unable to fall back asleep. Next slide. For the person who's living with cognitive impairment, so we don't need a diagnosis of ADRD. It's if you see some subjective cognitive impairment that is going on, then we'll willingly screen you to see whether or not you're able to participate. To be co-residing, and community dwelling and stable dose of medications, and that there is some presence of sleep disorders. Next slide. And one of the things that we do in the study is that in addition to reporting sleep diary, so we have you recording what time you go to bed, what time you wake up, we also have you wear a watch. So being tolerant of wearing a watch for the duration of the intervention and being able to read, speak, and understand English. We haven't translated it yet. Hopefully down the road, we'll be able to do that and be able to see and hear, because everything that we're doing here is via video conferencing. Initially, we're doing it in person, but in light of COVID, we decided to do everything video conferencing. And that has also given us the ability to make it broader, have a broader reach throughout the United States. Next slide. And we're collecting data from you at 3 points, the baseline, right after you do the intervention and 3 months after the intervention. And we're doing, we're asking you to do questionnaires about sleep, some depressive symptoms and quality of life questionnaires. You're going to, during the intervention, do some checklist as to what you're doing and how the things that we've discussed are working and helping you, and giving feedback as to whether or not they are or not, and then wearing the actigraphy. And for participating, each person will get $100 if they complete the entire intervention and the data collection forms. Next slide. Yes. And if you are interested, or you think you qualify, or you know somebody who might be interested or who might qualify, then they can send us an email at Dr. Brewster Lab, so DRBREWSTER lab at emory.edu, or they can call us 404-712-9164. And we just finished up the intervention with Mrs. Rueff, and she was really happy, and I'm thankful that she is, to share what her experience was like participating in the intervention.
Let me have a wonderful discussion.
Can't hear her.
Okay. How is the sound? Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Much better. Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, there. Hi. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Brewster. This was the most wonderful experience. And I've had a sleep issue since I was 12 years old, which I only realized after speaking with Dr. Brewster. And when I tried to line up how she helped me the most. And I think it was in 4 categories, because you've seen her program that she developed for us and that we were able to participate. The first thing she showed me was the value of sleep and the importance, and I really had to change my habits from being a night owl and catching that second wind at night. And that was really a challenge. And she guided me, and each week of the 4 weeks, she had more suggestions that helped me change that habit. And then she really guided me with the practicalities of sleep, having the room dark, the temperature of the room, the comfort, having us only use our bedroom. In fact, she told us we couldn't fold our clothing in our bedroom, which we do. I mean, we follow everything to the T. And that made a big difference, even not laying the folded towels on top of our bed. I mean, it's like sacred. Our bedroom is, we really look at it in a whole new way. And of course, she went over the benefits, that we would, especially for me, to have personally, so that I wasn't going to be as tired and just dragging. And the benefits showed up quite quickly. And then she made the paperwork so easy. We had the most just easy to use charts in keeping the sleep diary. In fact, at the end of the study, I was like, oh no, I need my chart. So I actually developed a chart, based on what hers looked like. And she was so sweet. I sent her a copy, and and she said it was fine. And then I actually added some additional things that I realized I had left off. For my partner, for my dear husband, we're married 55 years. Fred had always been awakening more than 3 times a night. And now he just wakes up once, very often, does not even get out of bed. And it's just, is sleeping so much better. And that was truly disturbing, both of us. And I just want to mention, to go back to her very first slide, I believe it was her first or second slide, I had a hard time falling asleep, worrying about all the things that she had listed on that slide. And I didn't even realize until we were in the study that these things were bothering me and impeding my sleep. So it was invaluable. I would highly recommend this study to anyone who's having any kind of difficulty or any sleep challenging. So just to let Dr. Brewster know, we were in bed last night together before 10 o'clock. That's a huge change. I think my first appointment with Dr. Brewster, she said, "What time did you get to bed last night?" And I said, 3 a.m. And poor thing, she really had a challenge set up for her. So we've made big changes, and we are deeply, deeply indebted, Dr. Brewster, for your expertise and your guidance, and how beautifully you laid out your program and your study. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your story. And so a byproduct of this is research. This is, you're testing a hypothesis, and you're reaping the benefits during a live intervention. So, Dr. Brewster, when do you anticipate this hopefully coming online? We're here because we want to encourage people who, after Dr. Brewster shared the inclusion, or here's the criteria, because there is sort of a vetting process. But if you believe you're eligible and you can participate, please reach out to her. We will definitely share her contact information. But we do want to encourage you, like, wow, just like that during the pandemic and these virtual environments.
So I think I see 2 questions here. The first one is, what if it's your own stuff that's keeping you awake? So I've been recognizing that I think there may be a need for a caregiver-centric intervention. So I'll be working on that one. But the one that we have now is for both the person who lives with cognitive impairment and their caregiver. Another thing I would say is that if you are having issues with sleep on your own, would be to speak to your healthcare provider, because maybe they can then recommend a sleep physician for you to see who can evaluate that further. We don't have any limits on the age groups who can participate. It's just you and the person who lives with cognitive impairment.
Okay, we're going to share the flyer with participants. Everyone who registered, you will get a copy of the flyer so that you can reach out to Dr. Brewster directly. Okay, so just before we say goodbye to Ms. Marsha and Ms. Glenna, if you want to, raise your hands if you're having trouble with your sleep. You can click the raise your hand button in your chat. She's already given us a couple of tips on how we can make some changes right now, even without being a part of the research environment. But this is an opportunity right now. Let's see, what is the age group?
And another thing I want to say is that I'm also recruiting. So if you're a caregiver who does have sleep problems, we're doing a qualitative study where we're interviewing you, and we just want to know what it is that your sleep experience is like as a caregiver, what you're doing and those things. So if you are willing to be interviewed, then please send us an email and we'll contact you about that.
And did you share, is there an age limit?
No, yes, I did share it if there's an age limit, and there is no age limit. Well, I would say less than 21 and under. So my email address, Dr. Brewster, and I'll type it in also, drbrewsterlab@emory.edu.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again. You all have a great rest of the week. Okay, we are closing out with a live music demonstration. So thank you all for being patient with us. It is 3:06, and again, we have Miss Dominique Johnson. Oh, and her son's with us this week as well. Thank you. All right. Well, again, music brings us lots of joy. We want to, again, keep your hope and your joy and your hearts up this December. So stay tuned. I'm going to have just a few more announcements after Dominique, and then we hope to see you all next week.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear the piano?
Yes.
Okay. All right, it's me and my son again today. We're going to just play something kind of fun, Santa Baby. We're going to kind of jazz it up a little bit. My little eight-year-old son is going to help me out. You ready? Come on, go. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you guys.
All right, with the magic hand. Such amazing talent. We are so privileged and honored, and thank you all for your positive feedback and comments. We appreciate you. We can't wait to see you in person ultimately, but until we can see you in person, this is what we are doing now until, I don't know when. We've been doing it since March, so I guess we'll just keep it up until our leadership says, okay, we're going back to normal, right? All right, so when there's the Tuesday and we have BrainTalk Live and it's the week of like a special occasion, Christmas or whatnot, we try to keep that space and time very filled with a lot of laughs and joy and good times. So The plan for next Tuesday is to host that session with Dr. Whitney Wharton is going to come on and talk about her research, but we're going to play a little bit of trivia. And then if you want to wear an ugly sweater or a festive sweater or just doll up and show off your holiday decor, you don't have to, but we would love to just have a time of sharing during that 1 hour with you since we can't be in person. And then we do have a couple of tumblers left. So if you want to share, and I don't know if we'll vote or not, I haven't figured all that out, but we will gift 20 of the Emory Goizetta Alzheimer's Disease Research Center tumblers and get those in the mail to you as soon as we can. Okay, if you've been the recipient of anything over the last couple of months, if it's been a gift card or a tumbler or just something we've been able to gift you, we thank you for participating. So that will be our plan for the 22nd, the week of Christmas, is and we'll try to send out some more information, but wear your festive holiday or ugly sweater, or if you want to have your video screen on and share with us so we can see on the screen shortly your decor in your home, or just maybe your Christmas village, or your Kwanzaa candles, or just whatever. We want to share and see your faces. You see our faces every week, but we want to see you. So we'll turn as many cameras on as we can. Does that make sense? And then what else? I think that's it. If you're new, thank you for being here. This is pretty much how our program goes. We do tend to go over past 3 o'clock, but we will send out a recording and a link to a PDF of the PowerPoint. They'll all be merged as well. And again, thank you. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you back here next week. Goodbye.